Hi, hello, good morning. This is just a quick video. I have inherited a suitcase full of moulds. Now, they look pretty old. They are practically, they are vintage. And they all have a part code number on them, which is fantastic, because that will make it very easy for me to catalogue them, and I will know which mould makes which pattern by the number. And each one, it comes in two parts. So this is an example of one of the moulds, and they fit together, and they all have a little hole in them somewhere. So obviously once they are properly fitted together, which this one I haven't done, so I'm trying to do it with one hand. Well, okay, so they will fit together like so, and they have a hole in them, which you inject the fluid of whatever it is you're hoping to cast into, and then allow to cure. In other words, go hard. And then in theory, you should then be able to take the mould apart, and what has been casted will be within the two parts of the mould for you to then use for jewellery making. I assume this is what these moulds were originally for. But as I've never used moulds like this before, my biggest worry obviously is how to preserve them to prevent them from perishing. So one of the things I am aware of is obviously heat can affect the moulds, UV light can affect the moulds. I know this from personally, from using more up-to-date moulds. Also things like Milton, so when cleaning them, so cleaning detergents can perish the rubber. And also when trying to release the moulds, if they don't release safely or securely, they can actually end up breaking and splitting, which it looks like some of them may have had due to general wear and tear in the past. So one of the things, again, I'm going to have to look at is some kind of adhesive spray that I can use, which will not affect the actual casting of any of the moulds, but will make them easy to release once the casting has taken place. Now, because I've never used moulds like this before, I am going to have to do some research on how to use them. Originally, what I would have done is obviously I would have done like a wax template of each of the moulds so that I know what they look like. And the reason I use wax is because it's cheap, it's reusable, and once I'm happy with it and I've photographed it, I can then melt it and reuse it again. So I love using wax because it's a reusable resource. My only worry about obviously using wax, it doesn't have a very high temperature to melt, which is good, so that's a positive. But it's obviously being able to inject the wax, obviously by using some kind of syringe, into the mould quickly and effectively enough before it starts to harden and solidify. So at the moment, I don't actually have anything, so I'm thinking of maybe getting some pipettes. I could try pouring the wax, but then if I was going to pour it, obviously one of the things I would have to make sure is that the moulds didn't come apart. So I would have to maybe look at some kind of clamp or a way of just sort of securing the moulds long enough so that once everything had been injected inside the mould and then replaced back down, it will stop it from distorting. So I may try wax wax, and I'd probably try it on one of the moulds that is incomplete. So I do have some incomplete moulds, but again, I don't see why something like this wouldn't, it's like a flower, wouldn't work well and effectively just in wax. So I will try that out, so please bear with me.